Ukrainian First Lady Olena Zelenska tells the BBC that Ukraine will endure this coming winter, despite the cold and the blackouts caused by Russian missiles, and will keep fighting what she describes as a war of worldviews, because, without victory, there can be no peace. We meet in a storied city where a winter's chill is biting, where charming street lamps are dimmed, where buildings are going dark and cold in the midst of blackouts, as Russia keeps striking Ukraine's energy grid. The Ukrainian people have won plaudits for standing their ground against Russia's blistering assault. But this is yet another painful test of fortitude. We are ready to endure this, Olena Zelenska asserts when we sit down in a heavily secured compound tucked inside a sandbagged labyrinth of buildings in Kyiv. We've had so many terrible challenges, seen so many victims, so much destruction, that blackouts are not the worst thing to happen to us. She cites a recent poll where 90% of Ukrainians said they were ready to live with electricity shortages for 2 to 3 years if they could see the prospect of joining the European Union. That seems like an awfully long cold road, and she knows it. You know, it is easy to run a marathon when you know how many kilometers there are, she says. In this case, though Ukrainians don't know the distance they have to run, sometimes it can be very difficult, she says. But there are some new emotions that help us to hold on. All Ukrainians will become stronger because of this war, Ukraine's First Lady stoically predicts. Our wide-ranging, almost hour-long interview, recorded for the BBC's annual 100 Women season, takes place in the iconic House of Chimeras, adorned with elephant head gargoyles and sculptures of mythical creatures, facing 10 Bankova Street, Ukraine's version of 10 Downing Street. The building formed the backdrop for President Zelensky's famous 26 February speech to rally Ukrainians, filmed on his phone 2 days after Russian tanks rolled across the border. "I'm here. We won't lay down our arms," he declared. The night before, in one of what became nightly addresses, he had announced in another selfie video that Russia has designated me as target number 1 and my family as target number 2. And so it was from the first day. And it continues now, Olena Zelenska recalls, her words barely hiding the enormous strain that her family, like all Ukrainian families now ripped apart, are going through. A few walls of sandbags and circles of security checks away, President Zelensky carries on, around the clock, so close and yet so far. She won't give an exact date for when they last had dinner together with their children, 18-year-old Alexandra and 9-year-old Kurlo. "It's very rare nowadays, very rare," she says. "I live separately with my children and my husband lives at work," she explains. "Most of all, we miss simple things to sit, not looking at the time, as long as we want." Every Ukrainian's life has been turned inside out, from engineers to ballerinas now fighting on front lines, to some 8 million, mainly women and children, forced to flee into new lives across the border. The President and First Lady's lives have long been entwined. High school sweethearts, they went on to work together in a comedy troupe and TV studio, he a comic actor, and she, backstage, a scriptwriter. When he ran for president 3 years ago, she made it clear this wasn't a life she wanted. But this war has thrust her into the spotlight on a global stage. After Russia missiles started whistling into Kyiv in the early hours of 24 February, Olena Zelenska spent months in hiding in secret locations with her children. She emerged on 8 May, Mother's Day this year, in Ukraine and many other countries, when she joined the U.S. First Lady Jill Biden at a shelter for the displaced in the relatively safe western Ukrainian city of Lviv. Now she keeps popping up in speeches on Zoom, or at times in person, with her smartly styled hair in classic shirts or jackets, with a shy smile, which gives way to strongly worded speeches which come from a mother, a daughter, a first lady. When the U.S. Congress gave a standing ovation, twice for a Ukrainian leader in July, it wasn't President Zelensky at the podium. He hasn't traveled since Russia invaded. It was his wife, and the first foreign first lady granted the privilege of addressing the U.S. legislature. "Never liked public speaking. I was scared," she admits, "but I understood this mission. It was impossible to miss this chance." She emphasized, as she always does, the profound suffering of Ukrainian children, condemning what she called Russia's Hunger Games. Then she went much further, asking the U.S. Congress to send weapons.